Welcome to Chosen, discovering the life of true parents and their impact on the world. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this 21-day live and interactive docu-series. Together, we will be exploring the lives of our true parents, who are, without a doubt, the greatest couple, the greatest peacemakers, and the greatest leaders of all time. If you've never heard of true parents before, well, let me put it this way. I know of no couple in history that has impacted every nation and every sector of society, let alone in such a short amount of time. How did this mission, which started with such humble beginnings, span the entire globe in just a few years to become a worldwide movement? Stick with us and you will find out. You know, change makers by definition are not immediately appreciated by everyone. Father and Mother Moon did not come here to tell us what we already know, nor did they come to do what has already been done. They stood up to make a real difference at the risk of their lives. And as a result, they have been constantly beaten with threats. False testimony and misunderstandings have been hurled at them and their precious family again and again. But they kept going, steadfast in their commitment to heal God's heart and save the world. Who thinks like that? Who can achieve so much in so little time, and who would choose to live like that until their dying day? It is only possible because of God. Ultimately, what we are doing right here, together with you, is this. We are going to pull back the curtain to reveal the most central work of God in our lifetime. And if you will permit me to be so bold, the most central work of God in human history. If you stick with us for this 21-day series, you will be hearing from some of the most outstanding voices our movement has to offer. Together, we will share the poignant moments, the laughter, the tears of this great calling to heal the lonely heart of our Heavenly Parent, who will not rest until every man, woman, and child on this planet finds their true happiness and purpose. We will be taking a journey together to discover more about true parents' impact on our lives, perhaps in ways we have not fully appreciated ourselves. Do you want to hear more about what true parents have done in Africa, Japan, and South America? We've got you. You want to hear more about what true parents have done to impact Europe, Asia, Korea, North America? We've got you, and more. We're going to be covering topics such as Father and Mother Moon's undeniable impact on the fight against communism, their tireless efforts to bring together the body of Christ, how they have changed our relationship with the ocean, with industry, technology, the arts, entertainment, and more. To sum it up, we'll be looking at how true parents have uniquely changed our relationship with God forever, and ultimately our relationship with humanity as children of our Heavenly Parent, as brothers and sisters, one family under God. So on behalf of Dr. Ki-Hoon Kim, our North American Regional Chair, and also on behalf of the incredible team working right now behind the scenes, and all of those who are going to be contributing to this series, on behalf of all of us, I want to say this. No matter where you are in your journey, We hope that through the stories you will hear during this series, that it brings you closer to our Heavenly Parent and deeper in a living relationship with the most extraordinary couple in history, our true parents. This is the mission for which they were chosen. And in turn, they have chosen us to pick up this mantle, inherit this cause, and establish a joyful heavenly kingdom right here on earth. In today's episode, which is titled Inseparable, the Foundation of Christianity for True Parents, we're going to take a journey to better understand the background and environment of true parents' birth and birthplace. Father and Mother Moon, although born in the same area and even on the same day, of course with some years between them, went through what can only be called the path of God to find the truth about our original relationship with God, and also to find one another, and together to commence what would become the greatest ministry this planet has ever known. Both of them come from fervently devout Christian roots. And today, Dr. Jenkins is going to dive a little bit deeper in that story. So let us hear what he has to say. Dr. Jenkins, what relationship does America have with early Christianity in Korea?
Well, that's a beautiful relationship. The Catholic Church brought Christianity to Korea earlier, but it didn't really take off until the American missionaries came from the United Methodist Church and also from the Presbyterian Church. And Reverend Underwood came from the Presbyterian Church, and Reverend Appenzeller came from the Methodist Church. And those two streams are the main streams of mainline Christianity in Korea. The other thing that's fascinating about these early Christian missions is that they grew the strains of Christianity, and it was true Father's parents that joined the Presbyterian Church. And Father started out his Christian experience with the Presbyterian Church. Mother's mother went to the Presbyterian Church until she was 19.
How would you say God was uniquely preparing the Korean people through Christianity to receive the second coming?
Well, already we know from the divine principle that God had prepared the Korean people as a nation to receive the Lord in his return. And therefore, there was a providential plan from even thousands of years ago in case the chosen people could not fulfill their responsibility. The providential plan would be to bring that Christian experience to America, and then also to bring it to a nation that has incredibly deep spiritual traditions of family values and honoring the Creator. And Korea has 2,000 years and more of that kind of spiritual background where ethics and morality and doing what God wants or doing what the Creator wants is very deep within the tradition, so deep that the grandfather and grandmother is honored above all the other family members, and then it transfers to the parents. So I think the Korean culture is deeply prepared for the Christian experience because Jesus comes as the true parent. He comes as the Lord, and he comes to bring grace, but also he comes to make our families closer and more ethical, more moral, to be really living the word. Jesus said, "Those who keep my commandments are the ones that love me."
What would you say was the heartistic atmosphere of the nation surrounding the birth of both Father and Mother Moon?
Well, as Mother shares in her memoir, as True Mother shares in her memoir, it's a very deep situation with the fact that they're under a colonial rule of Japan. And it was a very subjective, very insensitive rule, brutal. if people were caught studying Korean, they would be punished severely, and sometimes they would be sent to prison and even executed because they tried to destroy the Korean language. There was no respect for the Korean people. They were lower level humans in the eyes of the oppressors. So that atmosphere is an interesting point that we see in Christian history is when there's severe persecution and suffering, that also creates an atmosphere and a time that's ripe for people to turn to God. And I think Christianity actually flourished under this kind of circumstance. And two streams of Christianity formed, those that were mainly the above ground churches that were really the traditional Presbyterian and Methodist churches. Many of them, to continue to get permission to operate, had to allow a Japanese Shinto shrine to be placed in the center of the altar. And if they didn't do that, sometimes the churches were locked with the people inside and burnt to the ground. But then the Spirit-led churches was that other stream that went underground. Basically, they were meeting in people's homes, and they were being led by the revelations of God connected with the Bible. It's like the Pharaoh oppressing the Israelites. I mean, they were conditioned by that severe oppression in Egypt to leave Egypt and seek for God. And I think in Korea it was even stronger because they didn't try to turn back. They went deeper and deeper into Christianity, so much so that when Billy Graham went there on his first big crusade and had over hundreds of thousands gathered, he said the fervor of Christianity in Korea is the strongest in the world. And we can see that in Father and Mother's early life and their church life. When we show the picture of the Holy Lord Church or the New Jesus Church, you can see that these Christians were dedicating their life not just on Sunday or not just on Wednesday night Bible study, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. They were living for the Lord. That's why Mother testifies that even she remembers as a young child seeing her mother bow hundreds of times, even thousands of times to Jesus, preparing meals for Jesus. And that kind of attendance was so deep. And even when we went there with ACLC years later and went into the Korean churches, we go at 5 a.m. for prayer, and we find the churches were packed with people at 5 a.m. before work, praying before they would go to work.
You know, looking at Father and Mother today and going all the way back to that root, how important is the root of Jesus in the life of Father and Mother Moon and their work?
The life of Jesus and the life of Father and Mother are one. They're one. That fervor of Christianity that was there in the early days, True Father and True Mother took that level of fervor and increased it tenfold, I would say, because they not only lived for their church or for the nation, but they went to the whole world with the love of Jesus to bring the whole world together. And that's why Father and Mother were called to America. They felt to really fulfill their role as anointed as true parents, they had to come to America because that's the epicenter of development of Christianity. And that's why they came. And I think that there is no separation between Jesus and Father and Mother. That's why I'm starting to see from the memoir, wow, how close Mother is to Jesus now, right now. And then Father's words from the Champumogyeong when he says, from the time he met Jesus on that early Easter morning until today, and that was like in 2005 or 6, he said, I have been speaking with God and Jesus every single day. Every day I talk with them. It goes back to True Mother's mother, Hong Sun-ae, who's called Damon M. Great Mother, and also grandmother Jo Wan Mo, because Mother testifies in her memoir about how she can never forget that feeling of their fervor for Jesus. And it's like she said that I came to the place in my life where Jesus is real. I could feel Jesus. I could sense the presence of Jesus. I can even taste the presence of Jesus. The Lord is with us. That's why I think Mother's discernment with these Christians as she formed the World Clergy Leadership Conference is so sensitive and so real. She immediately understands the value of great Christian leaders because she can sense it, she can taste it, she can feel it. The Korean independence movement occurred in 1920 and 1919, 1920. And the Korean independence movement was really the foundation for True Father's birth on January 6th, 1920. We also have the fact that True Father's grandfather always told him, if you feed people from all over the nation, the blessings of the nation will come to you. And Father mentioned that because of that, his home was always a place that everyone was welcome, whether it was a beggar or a neighbor. Whenever anybody came in, they always were fed by True Father's mother. He wanted to learn Japanese because without learning Japanese, he didn't feel he could really properly address the oppression that was going on in Korea at that time. Also, Father was greatly influenced by his great uncle, Pastor Yoon Guk Moon, who was a Christian pastor. And along with True Father's grandfather, they were very active in the independence movement in Korea. And they suffered greatly for it under Japanese rule. It was then when he was 15 and 16 by Western counting, on Easter Sunday, he had a profound spiritual experience with Jesus. My encounter with Jesus in the year I turned 16 was a profound spiritual experience. It was the first of many revelations and the special encounter I have continued conversing with the living God and with Jesus even until today. I also had conversations with saints and sages in the spirit world. I cannot describe in words all the things we shared, but for 9 years, Jesus guided me in the words of truth. God chose me in accordance with his providential timetable. He taught Sunday school and he went to church every Sunday, and he really got more and more deeply involved with the Christian experience. In 1941, he went to Japan and he went to Waseda University, studied electrical engineering, and he became a leader of the Christian Student Association there. Because he was strong in the independence movement himself with Christians, he was severely tortured and put in prison and almost died from it. At the age of 26, Father's public ministry began. He started to really, have deeper and deeper callings from God. His life was finding those prepared people. People were having dreams and revelations. One of those people that was very central was Reverend Kim Baek-moon, and he was the head of the Israel monastery. And Father went there and studied. Father made it very clear it was ordained that I would inherit everything from Reverend Kim Baek-moon. After 6 months, Reverend Kim received a revelation from heaven, and he would put his hand on my head and he blessed me, saying, "May all the glory of King Solomon from throughout the world be upon you." However, his disciples started following Father because that's what they were living for. They all believed that the Lord was going to come anointed by Jesus as a man in Korea. And when those disciples started to unite and follow Father, unfortunately, he became jealous and he pulled them back. And still Father received a blessing from him, but the sad thing was Kim Baek-moon did not come together with them, and therefore Father had to go to the next course. And that next course was he had to go over to the western side of Korea where women's spiritual churches were developing. And the Korean spiritual churches were really receiving these revelations that the Lord was going to come to Korea. And they were also receiving revelations that the Lord would not come in the clouds, that he would come as a man, anointed by Jesus, born on earth. The Holy Lord Church, Mother's mother was part of that church, as well as Grandmother Jo, Mother's grandmother. And one of the most dedicated followers of Reverend Kim was Reverend Ho Ho Ben. So Father had been prepared by God to meet all these people. Reverend Ho Ho Ben took over the Holy Lord Church. They had thousands of people, and those people were making clothes for Jesus for every 3 days of his life. Mother's mother was also called to make those clothes, and they had to sit down, sew the garment completely, and pray over it. And they couldn't get up for any reason until the garment was finished. This is the kind of dedication. They would just really be preparing. They believed with a fervor that the Lord was coming to Korea, and he was coming anointed by Jesus. The Christians that were jealous about her church growing so fast went to the communist authorities at that time who were coming in after the World War II, and they threw her in prison. And it was there that Father met her. Father didn't meet her directly, but he knew he was being called to go see her. She had a revelation. She was looking for the Lord in prison, and Father was in that prison. Unfortunately, she couldn't accept, and Father went to Hungnam prison. And in Hungnam prison, he had to gather 12 disciples there. Just like Jesus had 12 disciples that all abandoned him at the cross, Father had to gain 12 disciples that would stand with him in prison without being able to speak. In prison, Father had to read every morning the Communist Marxist Manifesto. He talked about it. Every morning, the first hour, they had to read it aloud, and then they had to write letters praising what a great teaching it was. Father refused to write those letters, but because he was such a hard worker, somehow he was able to survive. And then he was about to be executed. It was the night before he was about to be executed. The United States Army came after they landed in Incheon, and Hungnam Harbor and Hungnam prison was bombed. And because of that, Father was able to escape, and he did not go south like others. He went over to Pyongyang again, and for 40 days witnessed to his church members. One of the church members that he got was Wan Pil Kim, who was a longtime faithful member. Father testifies that Wan Pil Kim is the one that actually fulfilled the John the Baptist role. He had to do it as a member of the family movement or the unification movement at that time, and he was a substitute for the John the Baptist from the mainline Christian churches or the Spirit-led churches. And they, with Mr. Pak, who had a broken leg, who escaped prison also, went all the way to Busan. Father built the first church out of cardboard ration boxes from the U.S. Army, and he and Wan Pil Kim started witnessing, and they would paint portraits of U.S. Army soldiers, and they started fundraising right away. He founded in 1954 the Holy Spirit Association for the Unification of World Christianity. Mother remembers her grandmother saying to her over and over and over again, "God is your Father. God is your Father." So Mother testifies that she grew up feeling God is my Father more than anything else. Mother's ancestor, Jo Han Jun, a very famous story was passed down for generations upon generations of how he was the one that built the bridge over the Dalai River. He spent his whole fortune, he spent everything he had, and he built that bridge over the Dalai River for the public, sacrificing everything he had. And right when he finished, he received the revelation that your descendant will give birth to the Princess of Heaven. So Mother has that kind of ancestral background. And also, Mother remembers from the earliest time, Mother's grandmother, Jo Wan Mo, was such a devout Christian, so serious as Christians. I mean, they're really, truly praying every day and sacrificing and bowing to Jesus and that kind of thing. Mother remembers walking to church, and they go to church every day. And Mother remembers walking to the church, the Holy Lord Church, also the inside the womb church. And Mother said her mother, Hong Sune, would hold her hand and say to her as they walked, "Only one and only daughter of the Lord, that's who you are. You're the one and only daughter of the Lord." Another thing Mother remembers, her mother saying that right after she gave birth to Mother, she remembers eating seaweed soup, which was the tradition after you give birth. And then suddenly, right after she had that soup, she had a vivid experience with Satan. Force of evil appeared to Damon and said, "If I let this baby be, the world will be destroyed." He yelled at her, "I must do away with her right now." So Mother remembers that her mother was constantly getting this kind of experience where Satan was around the corner trying not just to hurt them, but trying to kill Mother, that kind of thing. When Mother went south, they went 125 miles on foot. The tensions are rising with the North Korean communists there. The Korean War hadn't started yet. They get close to the 38th parallel. North Korean soldiers capture them and held them. But one of the elders there, who didn't know Mother, kept telling Mother, give the soldiers some food. So Mother would take food to the soldiers. Mother believes that's probably the reason why they let them go. They let her go and her mother, and they told them, go back north. But of course, as soon as they got out of sight, they went south, and they made it. They made it all the way to Seoul. June 25th, the war broke out. Damon and his brother says, we got to leave. I'm going to get you out of here. I'm going to bring an army vehicle and get you out of here. So they wait and they wait, and he doesn't come. And finally, everybody in the city from all these little homes throughout the city of Seoul are rushing down the streets. And Mother and Damon and him were rushing down the street, and they were just going down the street, and it was so crowded you couldn't even move. But Grandmother said, no, we have to wait. We have to wait. We have to go back. My brother's coming. And sure enough, he comes with the army truck, puts them in the truck. They drive through the crowds, just like, molasses moving through the crowds, but they got through and they got across the bridge, the Han River Bridge. And then soon as they got across, he said, hit the floor in the truck. And then Mother remembers an incredible blue flash, and the truck shook, and the whole Han River Bridge had to be blown up because South Korea was now, the North Koreans were coming into Seoul at that time. So that was terrible. Mother's mother was praying, I know Jesus is coming. Jesus is here. I know he's coming. Out of millions of people, they run into Mr. Jung, who was part of the Holy Lord Church and knew about Ho Ho Bin and inside the Womb Church. And because of that, they got connected with him. Damon and him went to Chumpadong, where Father was, and she met Father for the first time in 1955. It was an amazing thing. And Mother says in her autobiography, my mother lived an exemplary life of authenticity as a religious person, always putting her faith into practice. She studied the Bible and shared these teachings with me of the Holy Lord Church and the Inside the Womb Church, that Jesus would return as a man in the flesh, just as he come 2,000 years ago, and that he would find his holy bride, and that would be the marriage supper of the Lamb. From my mother, I learned the meaning of Jesus' second advent. And then, she joined the church right there. And then it was a couple months later that she brought Mother to meet Father. It was 1956. Mother recounts that I greeted Father Moon politely as he returned the greeting, and then he asked my mother, who is this child? And Damon said, this is my daughter. With a look of surprise, Father Moon gazed at me and said, you have such a pretty daughter. Then he closed his eyes. What is your name? And I politely replied, my name is Hak Jahan. And it was as if something struck Father, and he softly spoke to himself, Hak Jahan has been born in Korea. And he repeated that 3 times. She moved to Seoul with her mother, and she was very active with the Chumpadong Church. And then when she was 16, she went to St. Joseph Nursing School. And one of the reasons was Mother saw so many people were still completely wounded and sick and destroyed from the war. Years ago, when she was on the world tour, and we had a breakfast meeting with Mother with many pastors. One of the pastors asked her, what's it like to be the mother, true mother of all humanity? And Mother then got tears in her eyes and said, I feel so much, how much God's heart is in pain. And I don't feel I'm even worthy to comfort God enough. But I have determined that I'm going to do everything I can to comfort God because of his suffering. And then she said, when I met Father, I felt he was the one that understood God's suffering more than any other person I'd ever heard of or seen, even in the Bible. True father and true mother are like the highest level of the Korean culture, the highest level. They can win all Korean people. They can touch every level of Korean culture. But also, the same feeling comes in Japan, and the same feeling comes in the Western world. When Father and Mother were inviting us to East Garden, and we would have meetings all day, no one ever felt that Father was from Korea. We felt he was from God. And that's how Jesus was, one with God. Father and Mother are one with God. So you don't feel they're from a particular culture, that you feel that they're from heaven or heavenly. And that's why I was amazed with Father and Mother's ability to relate with the clergy. The clergy are like their main representatives. They feel that that's the main representatives that God prepared to communicate true parents' message of blessed families and grace. And their ability to just win clergy's heart. I saw them together when Bishop Stallings was at the breakfast meeting on the first couple cities of the 50-state tour. And Father told him, Bishop Stallings, to be a man leading the family movement, you have to be blessed. You have to have a wife. You have to go beyond your old traditions and have a wife now. And he said, what do you think about that? And he said, I want a wife just like true Mother. And then Mother said, how many children do you want to have? He said, I want to have 12 children. And then Mother said, so practically, and everybody laughed at the table, well, how are you going to pay for those 12 children? You better think about that, because it's a big responsibility, but God bless you, and that kind of personal relationship was so moving to the clergy. Father he loved to touch the heads of those clergy that didn't have any hair. He loved to do that. He loved to just, and it'd be very wonderful discussions. And suddenly when we were leaving, Father would put his hand on their head and rub it, and nobody minded. They loved it. It was that close. He could grab them by the beard. And Mother's very different from that. Mother just really cares deeply about their lives, about everything, how they feel. Are they hungry? Or they need any more? Mother always creating the best meal.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for such a passionate rendition of this story. Inseparable, the Christian foundation for the foundation of Christianity for true parents. The point being here is that there is no way for true parents to exist without this incredible relationship with Jesus Christ and their Christ-like commitment to sacrificing their own lives for the sake of mankind. Father's love for God, mother's love for God, and their love for humanity. Is it possible that their love is comparable to the love that Jesus has for God? Is it possible that father and mother's love for humanity is comparable to Jesus's love for humanity? I think so. And as you continue with us on this journey, undoubtedly you will arrive at the same conclusion if you aren't already there now. Again, thank you for joining us live. We have a very special segment coming up right now. Live together with you, we are going to conduct a roundtable. We have selected 3 special people in prayer, might I say, specially selected for your, shall I say, entertainment, education. Again, the purpose being to draw us deeper and closer with God and true parents. Right now, together with us in the studio to help reflect on this story of True Parents' Christian foundation, I would like to invite to the stage Pastor Tasna Bursey from Kodiak, Alaska, Pastor T.L. Barrett from Chicago, Illinois, and Dr. Tanya Edwards from right where I am in New Jersey. Welcome, all of you. Thank you so much for being together for the first episode of Chosen. How are you all?
Good. Thank you for having us.
This is wonderful.
For inviting me. Honored and humbled to be in this group. We are the Trinity, representing the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Thank you so much for being with us. You guys look beautiful. I say, Pastor T.L. Barrett, like I said earlier, you do look like the front cover of a magazine. Thank you to your son for helping set up your live studio, live linked. We have thousands of people watching right now, and we've watched together this short story that really, in fairness, only covers a few key elements in the beginning lives of Father and Mother Moon. And I want to start with a question to you, Hasna. Please share with us today, how did this episode, this story, and how has your journey with true parents helped you understand the relationship between true parents and Jesus and their Christian foundation?
So I was really grateful for the presentation today. I think this question definitely speaks to one of the main takeaways, specifically like being able to understand more deeply true parents' heart and love for Jesus. I grew up as a second generation unificationist. And I think if I'm really honest, I never really understood how devotedly Christian true parents were in their upbringing, in their life, in their family. I think it was colored by, my understanding that because there was a struggle for Christianity to fully receive maybe true parents in the way that God had intended, I experienced a lot of like the pain and the rejection of that growing up. And so it definitely created in my own heart and my own personal relationship with Jesus sort of this distance. And somehow I felt that if Christianity hadn't been able to fully understand who true parents were, then maybe there must have been some part of, true parents' heart that wrestled to love or forgive Christianity, or even it made me wonder what kind of relationship Jesus and true parents had with each other. But I'm studying at UTS, and even this presentation today really makes me realize the depth and the level of devotion and dedication of like the Korean people, especially during this challenging time that true parents grew up in. And it's such an incredible portrayal of faith, right? To believe so fervently that Christ is returning, like, the account of doing thousands of vows and hours of prayer and fasting, and like this whole country was influenced by this, right? And so to understand that was that kind of sincere devotion was the foundation of true parents' life, like watching the pictures of, mother's grandmother passed down to her mother, passed down to mother, makes me realize how wrong I was about that understanding of that relationship. And specifically this testimony at the end of a pastor asking mother, what is it like to be the mother of all humanity? It's a pretty bold question to ask, but mother's response of explaining how, she felt so much how God's heart is in pain, and how she could connect to and trust true Father because she realized that he experienced the same thing, right? More than anyone that she had met before. And right, which was the foundation that I feel really allowed them to understand Jesus's heart. And when I think about, Jesus, like that painting of Father connecting to Jesus on Easter morning, Jesus waited 2,000 years, right, to find someone who could carry on his mission. And I think Jesus knew more than anyone the heartache that Jesus's path must have brought God as a father, right? Not to be able to see him married and to have a family. And as a child, like your deepest longing is to see your parents' heart comforted. And so I think your true parents could understand and be trusted by Jesus because of their devotion and because of the life that they led, and because of this long lineage of faithful people that they came from. And so they've lived their whole life with that kind of love. Like Dr. Jenkins was saying, there's no separation. And it makes me understand more deeply, like true parents' love for Christian pastors like Pastor Barrett and Dr. Edwards, right? who could understand how much two parents loved God and loved Jesus. And so it's really, his presentation is really humbling, because it honestly makes me think about my own level of devotion in my life. I consider myself like a religious and spiritual person, but like juxtaposed to this incredible portrayal of Christian faith, like I really have to ask myself that question, right? And to reflect on like my own life as a foundation, stands on the foundation of these churches and these lives and the sacrifice and their dedication that they gave. So it makes me think about how, the life that we live now, creates a foundation for those that follow. So it was a really moving presentation, and I'm grateful for what it makes me reflect on.
Thank you, Pastor Tasna. I feel called to ask Pastor T.L. Barrett, coming from a whole nother end of the spectrum as you do, what comes to heart when you hear Tasna's sharing?
Well, first of all, I hear her and I feel her. And I think those who are listening and watching can say the same thing, that it's a very powerful feeling. As I listened to Dr. Jenkins, I thought about so many things, but I would be eternally grateful because I'm 76 years of age and I never truly understood this old saying until this moment when Dr. Jenkins was giving the interpretation of his concept of two parents. The saying is, your life to you is a gift from God, but what you do with your life is your gift to God. And I could not help but think how great a gift the lives of our two parents must be to the heart of God. Because the greatest gift that anyone can give is a child. There's no greater gift because the child is the greatest product of any relationship. And for our true parents to embrace all humanity as their children, not for the purpose of their self-aggrandizement, but for the purpose of blessing the heart of God, to return to God children that they have birthed out of their spiritual womb. There were two times in my life that I consider the greatest moments. One, when I heard the voice of God telling me to take my $10 watch, because I never traveled with expensive jewelry, but when I was at Father's birthday celebration and they were giving him all of these elaborate, expensive gifts, and I felt, left out because I didn't have a gift. And that voice of God told me, take off your watch and give it to him. And I'm telling God, he knows value. He knows that this would be a toy type watch.
Well, wait, what brand, Pastor Barrett? Was it Casio?
My watch?
Yes.
It wasn't even a name brand. I bought it at the New Yorker Hotel gift shop.
All you can remember, it was a $15 watch.
$10.
Oh, 10. I'm sorry.
$10 for it. And so when I got up there, Neil Salonen asked me, he said, do you have a gift for Father? I said, yes. He said, show it to me. I said, no, I won't. I'm going to give it to Father because I know he wouldn't have allowed me. And when I got to Father, I told him that you have given your personal things to other people. God wants you to know what it feels like for somebody to give their person. And I took my watch off and handed it to him. And his face turned crimson. And I thought, surely I was in trouble. But he, in turn, took his watch off and gave it to me. Oh, my God.
Well, hang on just a moment. So just before you handed it to him, Pastor Barrett, sorry, we gotta take a peek. Were you concerned? Am I doing the right thing? Am I, you said you're worried about getting in trouble, or what was going through your mind?
Because of all of these $15,000 vases and figurines and gold plated this and that, I thought I would be embarrassed that they were there. But Father was so moved that he
took off his watch.
Took off his watch, which was
a little more than $10, right?
A little more, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And told me, you keep my watch. And then I found out later by Dr. Kwok that a little time before that, he had taken his watch and sent it to his son who had passed away to the funeral home.
Wow.
So that they would be connected throughout eternity. And when I gave him my watch 2 weeks later, that was a sign from his son that he had received his watch. That's why it was so meaningful to him. The second time that I heard that voice was when we were in that upper room with Mother that Dr. Jenkins referred to. And I heard that voice tell me, ask True Mother, what does it feel like to be the mother of all humanity, to have that responsibility? And once again, I was a little frightened because she teared up and she had to gather herself. And then when she began to speak, she said that no one had ever asked her anything like that before. So it brought that whole responsibility of the weight of the world into reality of that moment. And my life has never, been the same. And I could sit here for hours and tell you about how their lives have affected my life and how God showed me his love for me by choosing me to be in proximity. I'm talking physical. I read about Jesus. I read about Moses and Elijah and all of them. But God says, I'm going to choose you to live in a time where you can share time and space and mission work with the greatest spiritual leaders of all time.
Amazing. Amazing. Two great stories. And you're getting a lot of positive feedback, both of you. Thank you. This is wonderful, rich. When everybody tells me a story like that, I do love to ask the secondary layer, the emotional layer, the internal dialogue layer, because there's a whole nother movie going on inside. And thank you, though, Pastor Barrett. I think many of us from the side that have either grown up in or joined, to be active centrally in some way in this movement, perhaps not, finding ourselves as them kind of guts to go up and do what you did in both those occasions. But, thanks for opening the door, because, you showed us the real humanity and parental love of both father and mother through those testimonies. Thank you. I gotta go to Dr. Tanya Edwards. Real simple question. What experience with true parents has had the greatest impact on your life?
Well, it's hard to say just one because there have been several. First of all, coming into the Unification Church, a little difficult for me at one time. But after I became acquainted with true parents, and we had stayed in their homes, we flew in their jet, we had many, many personal encounters with both of them. But it was on their birthday in the New Yorker in the early years of our acquaintance. And I gave Father a personal Bible of mine. And I thought, at the time I wasn't thinking he needed this Bible, but it was something that I had to give, just like Dr. Barrett had given him his watch. And I felt that there was a connection with the Bible giving to him, to Father, because I wanted him to know that maybe there was a spiritual connection that I needed to have with him at the time. And also, there were times when True Mother had given me different items, and I just really appreciated that. But I think the most important thing, Damien, is when I realized the in-depthness of True Father's walk with Jesus. The in-depthness of the words and the knowledge that he gave imparted to us. The knowledge and wisdom that True Father had when he came to America. I remember as a young child hearing different things that were said, from pastors, but what I believe is they didn't understand True Father. He came to America with the Korean language, with the Korean thought and theory and aspect of the Korean life to America. And it was a little hard for, I think, Americans to kind of grasp a hold of, especially other clergy. And I think that when he came, other clergy were like, well, who is he to come in and have these big mass weddings? And, he's winning thousands of our people, and so many are flocking to him. And it was a time and an era that Jesus had appointed and anointed for True Father to come to America to witness and to be able to connect with America people. There are so many different avenues and ways that I could answer that. So I'm sorry if I don't give you just one particular one, but that's what I have experienced many things, but thank you.
Dr. Edwards, I have to give you some space to be able to represent not only your own journey as a daughter of God, but also as a wife to your fantastic husband, Reverend Bishop Jesse Edwards. And so many times when we see you together, you make us laugh. Speak, if you will, just a couple of moments on your experience with the blessing.
Well, it's a little funny because at the time, I had given my husband an ultimatum about being with True Father, and it was a long story. And we were in New York, and I was told we were going to be blessed with Bishop Malingo, Archbishop Stallings, and some other friends. And they told me, okay, you're going to have to wear a white dress, but we want you to support Bishop Malingo and Archbishop Stallings as they get married. You can come and stand with them. So I thought, okay, I was going to be like an attendant.
So you weren't going there to receive the blessing. You were being invited to, help participate, be a part of the show. Right. Okay. Yes. I get you.
And I found a white suit. And
not easy to find, right? I know it's not easy to find white suits, white clothes, all white for ladies. I've been all over the world with my wife, and there ain't one country it's too easy. Perhaps Korea, the land of white robed, clothed people. Please go on.
And you'll see in some of the videos, a particular video where everyone's in white and I'm in hot pink.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't the time, but I was like rebellious because I was like, I'm not going to wear white. Why are they telling me what to wear? Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, on this particular day, we were in New York and they said, okay, we want you to stand with Archbishop Malingo and Archbishop Stallings. And I get a white suit. I said, no, the bride wears white. I don't need to wear white. The bride is the one who wears the white. See, I was very unknowledgeable about the blessing. And so they said, no, you need to wear white. And I was like, okay, I'll get white. So I got a white suit. I think my husband was in on this because we were a little bit late. And as we're rushing to the door, someone handed me a bouquet of flowers and white gloves. And I'm like, oh, she must have forgot her bouquet of flowers, thinking about the bride. So they gave me the white gloves, the bouquet, and told me to rush in real quick and go sit on the front. Well, they were taking videos, and at the time I tried to hide my face because I didn't want my friends and people to see that I was there. When I walked in and I saw everybody in white, I thought, uh-oh, something's going on here.
I'm not just here for the photo.
Yeah, something's up. So we went through it, and through the ceremony, I'm telling my husband, I'm going to get you for this, you know, but
He knew.
Yeah, he knew. He was laughing a little bit, and
but you didn't run out. You didn't run away.
No, and you know what? I've been running towards it ever since. So I guess it was a good thing.
You're a beautiful couple, and your story is a fascinating one. It deserves probably a 21 episode series itself just to get to the heart of it. I've heard it shared in many ways, in many occasions. And I never remember this one. So yeah, thank you for sharing your own personal story. So we're going to be wrapping up soon, but I feel like I want to call perhaps again on you, Pastor Tasna. If you, in a minute, and I know you can, could you answer this? What is helping you in your journey to deepen your own understanding and relationship of heart with true parents, and especially true mother in this time? And perhaps think of it, you know, how might I learn myself to deepen it? What practices do you find have worked for you? What's working for you?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think like Pastor Barrett said, you know, it's an incredible blessing to be alive when your parents are alive. But I think with that is also the extra challenge of feeling like to have a relationship with them means I have to spend in-person time with them, you know, and listening to the stories of, you know, these aunts and uncles here who've spent like FaceTime with your parents. I think sometimes there's this concept that to have a relationship with mother, like I need to spend time with her, right? But I often had to remind myself that like, your relationship with true parents transcends time and space, right? Holy Spirit isn't restricted to that. Same way that people could have profound experiences with relationships with Jesus, even though he, you know, lived 2,000 years ago. And so I think for me, I had to work through a lot of my concepts of what a true mother is supposed to be, right? Based on growing up and just my own blocks, my stuff, right? So I think it takes a lot of humility to like be open to understand a person's life and journey, like even watching this series and understanding where they come from and the life that they come from and their background. But I think when I reflect what has helped me grow the most is like when I challenge myself to respond to certain situations in my life with the kind of heart that I'm trying to understand mother to have, right? Like asking, you know, how would you do this in your life? Or if I'm forced to be in situations where I have to forgive someone, you know, mother, how have you found the courage and the strength to forgive people that are so difficult to forgive? Or, you know, to have faith and trust in the things that you can't yet see, or in my journey to strive to be a better daughter or sister or a wife, like the way that God originally intended, like that's challenged me to like look to that relationship, right? And in trying to embody her heart and her example, it brings to life like the depth of her love, her grace, her wisdom, her strength. So it's not just something that I think you can intellectually understand. Of course, that assists it, but it's in the practice and the embodying and the surrender, like to asking, hey, mother, I'm struggling in this relationship with you, but it's something I want to build. And what steps can I take, just as with any relationship in our life? So, and carving out, you know, that time for daily devotion, that in itself is a practice of surrender, right? To carve out time to pray, to study. But those are things that have helped me.
Thank you, Tasna. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank all three of you for sharing your hearts.
Thank you for
and
having
now,
us.
before you go, to the viewers, if there are some of you watching live and you feel touched in a way that brings you closer to true parents as you hear these stories about their lives, please chat a note of appreciation to our roundtable, to our guests, and to the team so that we know how you are doing. With that, I'd like to thank the three of you again. All of our love to you and your precious families. Please stay safe, and hopefully we're going to see you guys back on the show. Thank you. Goodbye. Okay, folks, we are going to be doing this together for 21 days. We're going to be journeying through these stories together for 21 days to discover the lives of our true parents, discover in new ways the lives of our true parents and their impact on the world and me and you. But guess what? There is more. What if you could get access to the full interviews? Now, let me pitch you here. We're going to just the last 60 seconds, I'm going to pitch you at. Get ready. What if you had access to the full interviews, access to photos and videos that you may not yet have seen, access to interactive timelines of both father's life and mother's life, where you can scroll through the pictorial journey of their entire lives? And how about lifetime access to not only this video today, but each of the 21 episodes that we have probably 15 to 20 people working on, plus all of the contributors, the interviewees. This is an international effort, and many of our regional chairs and national leaders are taking time out of their schedule to share with us stories that you probably have never heard before. You want access to all of that? Then you can hit the green button below this video to give you a lifetime access to all of that and a whole bunch more that we're going to be putting in there. This is a live experience. It's live streamed, and it will be restreamed at another time for those in Europe and Korea and other parts of the country. But this is the place to be, 6 p.m. Eastern every day for the next 21 days. And we invite you to contribute by getting full access by hitting that button below. That will give you greater flexibility on viewing time. Either way, we hope we can be together with you live. Where are you going to be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern? What might you be doing? You know, you can watch this together on your TV, stream it to your TV for your whole family. You can watch it on your phone, on the bus, on the train. Probably still not that much travel going on, but we want to give you access to never before seen photos, never before seen footage, and never before heard stories of the incredible lives of our true parents. So what's coming tomorrow, you ask? Tomorrow, we will journey to Africa. Africa, the land that captured Mother's heart. And this, brothers and sisters, is an episode that I believe not only will you learn something about Mother, but you will learn something about Africa. And we have our very own precious sister, Kathy Rigney, who is just right now finishing up the final touches of the interview so that we can package it all up together for your viewing pleasure. 6 p.m. live tomorrow. This is a live 21-day docu-series, live with fresh ingredients, freshly packed for your pleasure, education, entertainment, and spiritual lives. Thank you so much for being a part of the very first show in this series, and frankly, perhaps even this genre. You're in the best place in the world. You're the best people in the world. You're sons and daughters of God, thanks to our true parents, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Until tomorrow, thank you and stay safe.